Okay, so hello and welcome to the Strategic Business Leadership Examination. Now, my name is Sheikh Bilal Haq, and I will be teaching you the ACCA Professional Examination of SBL, that is Strategic Business Leader Examination. Now, this strategic business leader examination is totally divided into two different parts. Remember, this is divided into two different parts. The first part is the technical area. The technical area basically constitutes 80% of the paper, and obviously, being the fact that this constitute 80% of the paper, this is one of the main parts that we will be studying during our entire course. And the second part is the cash marks, which I normally call them as cash mark, is the professional area, professional area, which is constituent of 20% marks. So this makes this entire examination of 100 marks. And this is the first time in the history of ACCA that these 100 marks are divided into 4 hours of examinable time. 4 hours of examinable time. Now, these 4 hours of examinable time will further be again divided into two different parts. The first part is the reading time, and the second part is writing time. Now, what I generally recommend to my students is that if you are not good in reading, let's suppose there are some students, some local students in Pakistan, and they are not good at reading. So, what my recommendation is to spend at least 40 to 50 minutes in reading the paper. Now, what is basically the reading time, or what basically constitutes the reading time? This is one of the biggest myth that people generally don't get an understanding about. So, let's see what reading time basically means. Reading time means the time which is not only spent on reading. The first thing is reading the requirements. Then we have the second thing, that is reading the exhibits. Third thing includes getting an understanding of industry in exam The fourth part is to get an insight as what is required by the examiner and to do proper referencing. Now, these are the four different areas that we will be covering in our reading time. The first one is obviously you'll be going through the requirements. The second one is you'll be reading the entire set of exhibits, getting an understanding of the industry in the examination. You will also try to get an insight of what is required by the examiner and do the proper referencing structure. So these are the four different things that will be included in the reading time. Remember, these four different things are basically these four different now these four different things are basically included in the reading time. So I generally recommend my students that you need to spend at least 40 to 50 minutes on reading time. Then comes the writing time. Obviously, if I divide the 4 hours paper, so I'll be getting around 290. No, I'll be getting around. So if I've got 4 hours of examinable time, this means that 60 into 4, 240 minutes. If I reduce 40 to 50 minutes, I'll be left with 200 to 190 minutes. So yes, so you will be having around 200 to 190 minutes as your writing time. Now writing time basically includes two different areas. In this writing time, you will be showcasing the desired formats plus professional marks. And the second part that you will be showcasing is the general application of models as per the question required. So this basically is included in the writing time. I hope so. You must be getting a brief insight of what this examination is all about. Now there might be a question arising in your mind, and that would be, sir, what are these technical areas and what are the professional areas? So first let me jot down all those chapters that we will be doing in the technical part. Let me jot down all those chapters that we will be doing in the technical part so that we are comfortable, or we may get to know that how will our course be going around. So the technical area, as the name suggests, the first chapter which I'll be starting in today's class is the strategy. And I have divided the strategies chapter into three parts. The second chapter that I'll be going through is leadership. Then we'll be going through stakeholders, and again stakeholder will be divided into two parts. Then I'll be going through the area of corporate governance, as to what do you understand by different types of committees that are operating within an organization, what is the difference between executive directors and non-executive directors, so on and so forth. After corporate governance, we'll be going through the finance planning and decision making. After this, we will be studying about the basic structure of internal controls and audits. Then we will be going through the area of risk. Then we have some new inclusions in the strategic business and leadership examination, and they are the AI, artificial intelligence, big data, cloud computing, etc., etc., etc. Then we'll also go through the chapter of ratio and appraisal tax systems. Now, if you are quite let's suppose, what I can say is, if you are quite attentive during this class, you must have seen that this strategic business leadership examination includes chapters that are generally related to the business models. Then this examination is basically inclusive of the law related areas. Obviously, this examination also includes the finance, that is basically the F7, the financial reporting related areas. Then you must be very amazed to see that the strategic business leadership examination also includes the F8, that is advanced audit or the audit related areas. Then, to my utmost surprise and to your utmost surprise, this examination is also inclusive of the information technology and system. Then this examination is also including, now I don't have more amount of colors. This examination is also including the basic model related to the ratios and appraisal. And last but not the least, this examination also includes the different types of taxation structure different types of taxation structure. So yes, these are the technical marks, these are technical area that is basically constituent of 80% of your paper. Obviously, one more thing that I would like to add on over here is everything will be included in the model formats. There will be different types of models that will be tested. For example, risk heat map, for example, BCG group, for example, many different types of models, Mendelow's matrix model, and so on and so forth. So these are the this is basically a general understanding about the technical part of your examination. I hope so I've given a brief insight of what we will be studying and how we will be starting our chapters. So I guess you must be aware of this brief insight. So let's move to the second part, which I generally call it as the cash marks, which includes the professional area. And this professional area is basically constituent of 20% of the marks. This professional area is constituent of 20% of the marks. Now, you need to be very, very well attentive while me explaining this. These professional marks basically includes five different types of skills. The first skill is the communication skills. Now, communication skill is how well is the answer being communicated to the potential strategy maker. Basically, what I call this skill is my in my layman language, I may call it as wearing the hat strategy. Wearing the hat strategy. Okay, so in technical area I forgot one single topic, and that is the ethics as well. So communication skills are basically wearing the hat strategy. Now, what do you mean by wearing the hat strategy? Let me explain you. For example, you are being told that you are the finance director, and you will be communicating to the CEO of the company, or you will be communicating to the chairman of the company. Now, you will be communicating in a format of letters, memos. I'll be explaining you what types of different formats will we be remembering during the course of our studies. So you are communicating, you are the finance director, and you are communicating to the chairman or the CEO of the company. Now, the biggest question over here arises: how well are you communicating? What basically defines how well? What do you mean by well, sir? By well, I mean that what professional jargons are you using? What professional words are you using? So on and so forth. So there will always be a tone. And remember, if the finance director is communicating, so he must be communicating with different numbers, as his profession is to be the director of finance. So what he will be doing is he'll be communicating in terms of numbers. So whatever format or whatever strategy are you writing, you need to keep in mind that you will be communicating in the, moreover, your language or your answer should portray that okay, this is being communicated by a finance director, meaning that the majority of the area will include the numbers or ratios or financial analysis rather than a generic talk. I guess you may be getting the desired point which I'm trying to explain. The second skill that you need to showcase during your examination is the skill of skepticism. Now, what do you mean by skepticism? Skepticism means professional unbiasedness. What I generally tell my student about professional skepticism is neither to consider, basically, let me write this as well, neither to consider a person to be good nor to consider a person to be bad. Now, let me give you an example. During my days of entering into firm, um, basically, I belong to a Muslim family, Alhamdulillah. And when I was in my firm days, so I went to my client, and the owner of that client, or the owner of the organization, he had a very good Muslim attire. He was offering his prayers and so on and so forth. So I called my manager and said, Mr. X, why have you sent me to this organization? Because the owner of this organization seems to be a very, let's suppose, Islamic type of person, or he seems to be a very religious type of person. And I don't think so that there will be any fraud in this particular company. So my boss, or the manager with whom I was in contact at that particular point of time, he told me, Bilal, please use your professional skepticism, meaning neither to consider a person to be good and nor to consider a person to be bad. Now, the second example, after some time, I saw his son, and he was wearing a earring and a full funky type of person, coming out from a dance party or so on and so forth. So, what my perception was, I again called my manager and I told him, okay, Mr. X, do you know one thing? He asked me, what? Mr. X, basically, the son of the owner of this particular restaurant or this particular place is not as religious as the general person, as the owner. So what we can do is, I don't think so there'll be a huge amount of fraud. So what we should do is, we should try to increase the skepticism, or we should try to increase the, let's suppose, the auditing that we are doing right now. So basically, my manager again told me, Bilal, please use professional skepticism. This means professional skepticism is something which consider an unbiased attitude. What do you mean by unbiased attitude? Unbiased attitude means neither to consider a person to be good and nor to consider a person to be bad. Just try to be neutral. Don't try to make anything, make conclusions without having the proper knowledge. So this basically is a general understanding about skepticism. Now the third part that will be tested during your examination is the analysis skills. Basically, I would want to discuss third and the fourth part uh, all together. Just give me a minute, please. Okay, so analysis skills means detailed examination of the given situation. But what is the difference between analysis and evaluation? Evaluation skill is bit different from analysis skills. Evaluation and in analysis skills, you just give a brief introduction of what this entire situation is all about, and no more, no less. Nothing more, nothing less. Just a brief introduction of what this entire situation is depicting right now. But in evaluation skills, what you do is you not only give a detailed examination, but you also try to showcase the pros and cons of the situation. Basically, in the layman language, I called evaluation skill to be black and white, right or wrong, advantageous and disadvantageous situation. So, we have seen about communication, skepticism, analysis, evaluation, and the last one is the most important one, business acumen. Now, business acumen means to take decisions not only with a perspective of finance ground, rather to take a, an overall view. Now, this is basically a bit difficult type of definition, but let me clarify this to you. Business acumen means that, let's suppose if I am being given three different products, product A, product B, and product C, and I'm being told that each product is being sold, or let's suppose, let me write this as sales. The sales value of each product is 500, 700, and 900. Now, the cost of goods sold of each product, obviously, by looking at this, I may easily say that product C is the highly expensive product, and maybe this might be the most fruitful products as well. So, by looking at this, I might have this conclusion. But obviously, this is just the 50% of the picture that is being shown. The rest 50% is the cost of goods sold. Let's suppose the cost of goods sold of product A is 100. This means that the gross profit of product A is 400. The cost of goods sold of product B is let's suppose 400, and the gross profit is 300, and the cost of goods sold of product C is 1000 rupees. This means we are in a loss of 100 rupees. Now remember one thing. Remember one thing. If I talk about the group profit, we can say that the group is earning 600 rupees of profitability. Now, if you ask a financial analyst, if you ask a person who just have financial knowledge or the basic knowledge of what finance is all about, he will be letting you know that, sorry, if I ask that person what should we do in order to increase the profitability of the business? So I guess a person who just have the financial knowledge and not the overall business knowledge, what his viewpoint will be to eliminate or to close down product C. Now, what if I'm closing it down? If I'm closing down product C, or if I'm not basically making the product C, this decision seems to be fruitful in the terms of financial sector or in the terms of financial decision making. Obviously, we'll be moving towards 700 rupees of profitability, because initially when I was producing three different types of product, I was at a loss of 100 rupees, and product C was basically eliminating the profitability of product A and B. So what I decided to do is I decided to close down product C, and ultimately now I'm in a profit of 700 rupees. But this is just one side of the picture. This is just when we see the financial side. Obviously, we will not be taking a decision on the basis of financial side. Business acumen says that you should take decision on the basis of the overall environment of the business, or on the basis of the external and internal environment, on the basis of your weakness, your strength, your opportunities, and your threat. Maybe maybe in the current scenario, product C is not performing as good as it should have been performing. So maybe in the near future, product C might have helped you in earning a profitability of thousands and millions and trillions of rupees. So you normally take decisions on the basis of future ability, rather than on the basis of the current scenarios, and you normally take decision on the basis of the entire business structure. Now, one last part of the introduction about this paper, or the just a refresher part, is that you won't be getting these 20% marks just by showcasing these five different skills. What you need to do is, let me jot it down. In order to get the cash marks, in order to get the cash marks, these are the 20% marks. What you need to do, you need to showcase these five skills, that is communication, second one is the analysis, third one is the skepticism, fourth is the evaluation, fourth skill is the evaluation skill. Sorry, I guess my screen stopped, unfortunately. Just give me a second, I'm reopening it. Evaluation skills, and obviously last but not the least, which we discussed in the last part of the cash marks or the professional marks, the fifth one is the business acumen. Now now remember one thing, remember one thing business acumen, communication, analysis, skepticism, evaluation, these are all those skills which will be helping you in getting those 20% marks. But you won't be getting these 20% marks in an isolated situation. What you need to do is, you need to showcase, you need to tell the examiner that I know these skills, but I know the presentation of these skills as well. You need to showcase these skills in certain different types of formats. Now, what are these formats? You will have to draft an email, you will have to draft a memo, you will have to draft a letter, risk register, press release, presentation, slide, report, so on and so forth. So all these five different marks can be gained by showcasing the communication, analysis, skepticism, evaluation, and business acumen skill. But in order to showcase these skills, you need to find out different formats, that is, emails, memos, letters, emails, memos, letters, risk registers, report writing, press release, presentation slides, reports, so on and so forth. So you will be showcasing these skills in the stated format. However, obviously, SBL is now. Let me conclude the entire discussion right now. If I talk about the strategic business leadership examination, in order to clear the entire set of the strategic business leadership examination, what you need to do, you first need to showcase your technical. You first need to study about the technical area in which different models, different chapters will be studied during these classes. Then you need to what can I say is, then you need to connect, or you need to coincide the two different areas, that is the cash professional marks along with the professional formats, and the end result will be a very fruitful result of you passing the strategic business leadership examination. So you will be passing the strategic business leadership examination. Now, last thing that I would like to say in this discussion right now is that, you must be very well aware that the strategic business leadership examination is now being done on the computer based examination format. Now, this examination is being taken into account on the computer based examination format. So, fortunately or unfortunately, you will be spending 4 hours of screen time, initial 4 hours of screen time. You need to keep one thing in mind, for passing this examination. I'm just giving you these tips and tricks right at the start of the session, so that you are very comfortable by the end of the. You need to keep two to three things in your mind. The first thing is that, before going into this examination, take a very good sleep, eat well, don't overeat or undereat. Obviously, if you are overeating, this is something not good for health during that point of time. And to be very confident, you don't need to skip any part of the examination, or you don't need to, in order to pass this examination, what you need to do is you need to complete the entire set of the paper. The meaning that, if a students come out, and normally if a student come out and he tell me, okay sir, Mr. Sheikh Bilal Haq, I was unable to complete my examination, and I was just able to do the, let's suppose I was just able to do the 20% part of the examination, and so on and so forth. So this is something wrong. This is something wrong. You cannot skip this paper. Make sure that you complete the entire set of paper. I'll make a separate video on how to ensure the completion of the 100 marks paper in your examination time. I'll make a separate video on that as well, don't worry. So I guess I have made this part as very self-explanatory, and I don't think so that it needs any further explanation right now. But if you have any queries or something, feel free to ask me on my WhatsApp number. Let's start with the first part of the strategic business, or the first chapter of the strategic business leadership examination. The first chapter of the strategic business leadership examination is the strategy. As I have told you before as well, that I have divided this chapter into three different parts. I have divided this chapter into three different parts. The first part is the strategy. Now, in strategy, the first area is we need to know the general understanding of what strategy is in the combination of all about. So, strategy includes the first thing, that is the vision or strategic intent. Basically, vision or strategic intent is the desired state. It is basically the desired future state in which an organization wishes to see itself. Vision is achieved through mission. Basically, vision is this desired state. For example, in every individual's life as well, you want to see yourself after 5 years as the CEO of the company or the CFO of the company, and so on and so forth. So the vision of Unilever right now is to double the size. I've written the vision of the Unilever. Our vision is to double the size of the business while reducing the environmental footprint and increasing our positive social impact. This means that, let's suppose, if we talk about the strategic intent of Unilever company, Unilever is one of the leading companies in this world. If we talk about the strategic intent of the Unilever company, or if we talk about the vision of the Unilever, we can say that the Unilever vision right now is to double the size of the business while reducing the environmental footprint and increasing the positive social impact, right? Now, if I move towards the mission area, mission is the organization's overriding purpose of existence and reflect stakeholders' expectation from the business point of view. It deals with the question, why do we exist? Mission is basically, why do we exist in this world? Why is it so that the organization is existent in this world? Why the hell am I operating as an organization in the areas of Pakistan, or in the areas of any other country, Europe, or some UK, or let's suppose any other country where I'm residing right now, where I'm operating right now. Why the hell am I operating over there? What are the basic reasons of my operations? These are the smaller missions that an organization just generally would want to take into account. Now, let's move towards the core values. What are the core values? Core values define how the organization wishes to operate and guides the organization action. That is the principle of, for example, the integrity. Basically, core values is all about the integrity of an organization. Normally, we include the basically the basic theme of IPOC, that is the integrity, professional competence and due care, professional behavior, so on and so forth. So this is the area where we will be studying about the mission and the core values. This is defined in the form of integrity, equal opportunity employer. Am I an equal opportunity employer? Am I someone who would want to give opportunities to both male and female? Or if I'm someone who would want to give opportunities to, let's suppose, the underprivileged areas, or underprivileged people of the world, or the overprivileged people of the world? Am I someone who is just give me a second, please. Am I someone who is an employer who loves to have a diverse workforce, meaning I have an individual who is from an outskirt area of Pakistan, who is an outspoken person, who have financial knowledge, as well as I have a person in my organization who have sales and marketing knowledge. I have a person in my organization who is moreover connected with the budgeting knowledge, so on and so forth. So these are the core values that should be explicitly stated either within the mission statement or through a separate subsidiary statement. So mission statement, let's look. Obviously, we have seen the vision statement of an organization, but what is the basic mission of an organization, or what are the core values, or what are the basic missions that an organization or the Unilever would want to state? Unilever missions is to add vitality to life. Obviously, if I talk about the different types of product that Unilever is right now offering to the entire set of the world, Nest Fruit Vitals, they are offering certain amount of juices or something. Vitality to life, we meet everyday need for nutrition, hygiene, and personal care with brands that help people in feeling good, look good, and get more out of life. Goals. Goals are basically the smaller target to achieve the mission. Goals are generally qualitative in nature. For example, increase in sales, reduction of costs, increase in customer satisfaction, new products, so on and so forth. So basically, the goals of an organization is the qualitative nature goals. And by qualitative, I mean to say that the goals of an organization should be in the terms of quality. For example, how much amount of customers are now being satisfied. If a customer comes into my organization and he is a loyal customer, or he always take his product from my, or he always purchases his product for my organization, this means that that particular customer is a loyal one. That particular customer is a loyal one. And if I am having a loyal customer, this means that we are basically moving further with our goals. We are basically moving further with our goals. We are achieving our goal, and so on and so forth. We are in a better situation. Moving further, what are objectives? Now, this is the biggest question that comes into my mind when I talk about the overall mission or aim of an organization. So, what are objective? Objective are the quantitative tasks. These are specific, measurable tasks that are targets to achieve, and they are quantitative in nature. Obviously, remember one thing: these objectives should be smart enough. Now, what do you mean by smart objectives? By smart objective, I mean they should be specific, they should be measurable, they should be achievable, they should be result oriented, they should be time bound. For example, increase in sales. If I just say that, okay, Mr. Sheikh Bilal Haq, you are the sales manager, you need to increase sales by in the forthcoming year, this is just a haphazard statement. This is not a clear statement. What I need to know is, what I need to tell my individuals is that you need to increase the sales by 10%. What I need to tell my individual is that you need to increase the sales by 10%. Okay. So, or reduce the cost by 5%, just by stating that the organization needs a cost reduction incentive is something. It's a very very vague statement. What I need to do is I need to make a statement of reducing the cost by 5% or 7% or so on and so forth. So this statement basically is makes my objective to be very clear and my objective to be very smart enough. Goals and objectives are developed at the highest level. Obviously, the strategy makers, the owners, the individuals who are at the highest level of the organization, they are the basic ones who are making the goals and objective, who are developing, who are basically making the goals and objective of an organization. And then these goals and objective are then being filtered down to the lower level staff or the managerial level staff, and then they are being told, or the departmental level staff, and then they are being told to achieve these target, to achieve these goals. And the cascading concept is known as the management by objective. The owners of the organization, the directors of the organization, the strategy makers of the organization are making the goals for the organization, and ultimately they are transferring these goals to the lower level individuals, or the individuals who are in the operational staff. And ultimately, after these goals are being transferred to the individual who are working in the operational staff, then they are being told to achieve these goals, and this concept is known as the management by objective. Then comes the area of strategy. Strategy is now the basic theme why we are studying the strategic business leadership examination. Is what strategy is. Strategies are developed in order to achieve the goals, objective, and hence mission of the organization. Every strategy that is being developed in this world is being developed just for the sake of achieving the overall aim and mission. Remember one thing, there are different types of organization that are operating in this world. The first type of organization generally is the commercial organization whose major task is to earn profitability for the organization. However, the second type of organization is the not for profit organization, or an organization that is not seeking profitability as their major objective. Now, these two different types of organization will have a varied objective. Obviously, these two different types of organization will be having varied objective. So ultimately, what we try to do is we try to achieve the missions. What we try to do is we try to achieve the objectives. We try to achieve the mission of an organization by fulfilling the strategies that are being developed by the top level of the management. And obviously, last but not the least, what is strategic management? Basically, strategic management is how an organization manages its strategy in creating strategy, implementing them, monitoring them, and revising them if these strategies are not getting the desired result. Now, as we have discussed in the above given chapter, right from the start of today's class, I've been chanting out that we will be studying about strategy of an organization. So let's see what a business organization is all about. Okay, so organization, what are they? In this chapter, we'll be studying. Basically, you must be very well aware of this chapter. But let's just for our revision purpose, let's just give it a quick revision. In this chapter, we'll be studying about what are the organization, why do we need them, and what are the different types of organization. So, organization is a place where different group of people work together for the achievement of common goal. Or organization is a social arrangement for the controlled performance of collective goals. Example of organization includes a charity organization, an accountancy firm, a manufacturing company, so on and so forth. Why do we need an organization? Now, this is the biggest question that comes into my mind, that comes into your mind right now. Basically, organization, if I try to be good at everything, I normally tell my kids, don't try to be good at everything, try to specialize over something. See, it's an old saying that if you are jack of all and king of none, you will soon be eliminated out of the market. But if you're king of one and jack of none, this will make you the specialist of that particular skill set. Now, organization is also being developed with this similar format. Why do we need an organization? Obviously, I cannot be good at everything. For example, I am a very, very good teacher of strategic business leadership examination. Okay, I'm basically making myself feel good by saying that I'm a very good teacher of strategic business leadership. Obviously, I guess if this is coming from your side, it will make me feel more happier. But I can be a very good teacher of strategic business leader. I can be a very good teacher of the foundation in business technology paper. I'm a very good teacher of the reporting side as well, but I do not know the taxation side. I do not know the law or the corporate governance side. So sharing of skills and knowledge, yes. When we arrange people, when we merge people to work for a specific organization, what they do is they share different skill set, they share their different knowledge. For example, as I've told you before, I'm a very good teacher of strategic business leadership, but I might not teach well in terms of the law or taxation paper. So what we need to do, we need to hire an individual who teaches well the taxation paper, so ultimately we'll be in a better position of forming an organization. This enables people to perform their tasks that they would have been unable to perform on their own, together with sharing of knowledge between themselves, thus validating the concept of social arrangement. Obviously, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to validate the concept of social arrangement. Now, what do you mean by specialization? Individuals can concentrate on a limited type of activity. Remember one thing, individuals will only be concentrating on a limited type of activity. I have told you before as well, don't be sorry for my voice. Don't be jack of all and king of none. Try to specialize in certain skills. For example, if I tell my organization, let's suppose if I tell Unilever or the organization with which I'm in contact with right now, if I tell my organization, okay, so my organization, I've got a specialist skill, and that specialist skill is basically that I can teach strategic business leader examination very well. and that organization tells me, okay, so you are a very good teacher of strategic business leadership, and I'm telling yes, because I've been teaching this examination since way too long, at the local level as well as at the national level, and I've got some proven results as well. So my organization would want to keep such an individual who's a specialist of strategic business leadership, rather me going to an organization and saying whatever subject you would want to whatever subject you would want me to teach, I am willing to teach those that subject. Now in that particular statement, my organization will be reluctant, and they might find it difficult, or they might be have a questioning mind as to they should keep me or not. Then we have the pooling in of resources, maybe in terms of money, in terms of time, leading to a controlled performance. For example, obviously, when we involve different types of skills, when we involve different type of people within an organization structure, what we do is we pool in different types of resources. Now, what do you mean by pooling in of different types of resources? There might be an individual who will be bringing their finance into an organization. There might be an individual who would be bringing the knowledge into an organization. There might be an individual who will be bringing his time into an organization. There might be an individual who will be bringing his mind and capital resources into an organization. Now, remember one thing, before teaching your younger brother, you must be teaching 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. But in today's class, you will be changing your concept, because we are now, right now, studying about the word of synergy. Synergy means when we add up two different resources along with two different resources, there comes the fifth one, and that fifth resource is the most powerful one. Meaning, when we add 2 plus 2, according to the mathematical terminology, it's basically 4, but according to the synergy concept, it is basically 5. And uh, this concept says that, okay, if I am introducing someone who have a skill set of financial resources, or if he is investing financial resources into an organization, and there comes another individual who is investing his time into an organization, then comes an individual who is investing his time, let's suppose his capital into an organization, and then comes an individual who is investing his, let's suppose, specialist skills of IT resources. This means that these four different person have brought in their skills. However, the if you are standing outside that organization in which these four different persons are present, you can easily say that these four different persons are presenting these skills, have contributed in some way or the other, but these four different persons are basically the asset of an organization. And if I'm standing outside the organization, I can say that if these four individuals are working inside Unilever, what I can tell my friend is that this Unilever is basically the composition of Mr. A's time, Mr. B's finance, Mr. C's capital, and Mr. D's specialist skill in terms of IT. So yes, synergy basically helps us in understanding that every organization will have a separate identity or a separate entity. Different type of people work together for the achievement of the common goal, and that common goal is being drafted by the ultimate organization with the name of Unilever, with the name of Procter and Gamble, with the name of Pakistan State Oil, with the name of let's suppose, Honda, with the name, the different types of names. So yes, synergy is basically the combination of different skills within an organization. Moving further, let's see. Now, obviously, sir, we have talked a lot about the organization structure, but let us know what basically are the different types of organization that are operating in this world. We can clearly differentiate that there are two different types of organization that are operating. The first one is the commercial organization. Now, commercial organization means a profit-seeking organization, an organization whose major objective is profit seeking, or whose main objective is profit seeking, and that is maximization of profit. Example of commercial organization might include Unilever, PSO, Shell, Byco, so on and so forth. Now, what is the common form of commercial organization? There are different forms of commercial organization. For example, the first form of commercial organization is the sole trader. Sole trader is an organization who is being owned and run by one single individual, meaning that there are no more than one individual who is running an organization, and the owner will take over the entire amount of profitability. Means that the entire set of profit will be taken over by the owner of the company. They will be looking after the profitability of the company and so on and so forth. They will not be sharing this profitability amount with any other individual. And less government intervention. Obviously, this is not a public limited company, it's just a small grocery mart. It is just a small mart that is operating in this world. So yes, there is very very less amount of government intervention. People are not intervening in between. And but the most unfortunate thing about this is that they will be having the unlimited liability provision. Now, what do you mean by unlimited liability provision? Unlimited liability means that, for example, if the company is having 20,000 pounds of assets, and the company is basically under the debt liability of 30,000 pounds, this means that company have 10,000 pounds of over and above liability than its asset. Now, this is an alarming situation. This means that in the case of winding up, the company will be tested on the basis of liability. Let's suppose if it is a sole trader company, this means that there will be a provision of unlimited liability. And by unlimited liability, I mean that in the case of winding up, not only the assets of the company will be sold in order to pay off the debt of 30,000 pounds, but the personal assets, for example, cars, a personal car, personal home of the individual who is operating, will also be sold in order to pay off the liability. Now, same is the case with the partnership as well. Partnership is basically owned and run by two different individuals who are sharing the profit of the company, and they are sharing the losses of the company as well. Partnership is when we are sharing the profitability and the losses of the company, and both the profit and loss are being shared in order to get greater amount of finance. But the same old provision of partnership is as similar to the um, a sole trader as well, and that is the unlimited liability. In the case of partnership, if the company is having 20,000 pounds of asset and 30,000 pounds of liability, this means the company will be having 10,000 pounds of over and above liability than asset, meaning that these 10,000 pounds will be covered by, let's suppose if there are two different types of partners, these 10,000 pounds will be covered from each partner if they have invested an equal amount of money, 5,000 pounds from each partner, by selling their car, by selling their home, so on and so forth. Now, moving further, limited liability company. Now, there may be different types of limited liability company as well. Limited liability company is a company which have a separate legal identity. Now, this is a company where the liability of the owners are limited up to the extent of the investment that is being done by the owner. For example, in Unilever, when we look at the Unilever name outside the company, we can say that in front of Unilever there might be a smaller word written, which is LTD, meaning the limited liability company. Now, as the name suggests, limited liability company is when the company is having assets of 20,000 pounds. However, the company total liability is of 30,000 pounds. This means that the company will only the owner of the company will only be liable to the extent of investment that is being done by them, and not any over and above amount. However, in limited liability company, there's no 1, 2, 10, 50 owners. There may be thousands and millions of owner in a limited liability company. Let's look at the limited liability company in more detail. There are two different types of limited liability company right now. First one is the private limited liability company. Obviously, private limited liability company is having smaller business. Um, they are owned by few shareholders. Share cannot be offered to the general public. Ltd after the name. I'm explaining each and everything right now. Just give me a second. Liability is limited up to the extent of investment that is being done by the shareholder of the company. Acha, just give me a second. I just need to have a glass of water. Just give me a second. Okay, so let us continue. Sorry, let's continue. So, we were talking about the private limited liability company. Private limited liability company is basically the smallest form of company. It is owned by few shareholders, normally being shared among the family members. And remember one thing, now people say that private limited liability company is just like partnership company. However, the shares cannot be offered to the general public. The only difference between private limited liability company and the partnership company is that private limited liability company is having a limited amount of liability. However, partnership will be having unlimited liability, and thus in partnership the owners are liable to pay off the amount of money just by using their personal assets in the form of car, in the form of home, and so on and so forth. And ultimately, moving further, so private limited liability company and public limited liability company. Now, what do you mean by public limited liability company? Public limited liability company means it's a larger form of the business organization. It's larger form of business organization. They are having huge number of shareholders. Shares can be offered to the general public, means that you can offer your share to the general public. Any individual who would want to invest his or her amount of money, any individual who would want to invest his or amount her amount of money, they may go and buy the shares of the company. And thus this type of company raises huge amount of finance. A greater combination of resources work together. Obviously, if I'm talking about the public limited company, it says that PLC after the name. What do you mean by PLC after the name? Public Limited Company after the name of the company, and thus the liability is limited up to the extent of the investment that is being done by the shareholder of the company. Now, what do you understand by the word limited liability company? Now, this is the basic question that comes into my mind. What is your basic understanding about the word limited liability? So, a limited liability company or limited liability partnership is an organization that when it hits the hard time, And if it has to go for the liquidation, the owner of the organization is protected. Normally, limited liability company, in a limited liability company, the owner of the organization are being protected. The owner of the organization are being protected, and thus they will not be using the private or the personal assets of the owner of the organization in order to facilitate the provision of the limited liability company. Now, what do you understand by the word not for profit organization? Not for profit organization or NFP or NPO do not seek profitability as their major objective. Instead, they seek to satisfy the particular needs of the member of the sectors of the society that they have been set up to benefit. For example, of the not-for-profit organization, basically not-for-profit organization is an organization whose major objective is not to earn profitability for the company. Rather, their major objective is just to provide a different service provision to different parts of the company. For example, of the not-for-profit organization might include schools, it might include colleges, hospitals, clubs, charities, so on and so forth. Their major objective is to help different parts of the society because they are being into the ownership of the government. So what they try to do is they try to help with the help of different agencies. However, in my country, in the country where I am living right now, Pakistan, we normally do not see many not-for-profit organizations. But as I've heard about UK and all the Western countries, people or the government over there are providing free education, free hospital services, free charity services, so on and so forth. So this is something good, and we should also adopt in terms of Pakistan as well, Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh as well. So, moving further, let's move. Yes, the objective of different type of not-for-profit organization. Now, what are the different types of objective of not-for-profit organization? The different objective of not-for-profit organization is hospital exists to treat patients. Yes, hospitals are there to treat patients. Council may see their mission as caring for the communities. Different type of councils in this world, they are the major area, the major way of satisfaction is to provide different care to the community. For example, recently I met a council, I met a member of the social activist group, and their major task was to protect the animal right, and this is something good. Normally the infringements that we are doing with the animals, they are trying to protect the rights of the animals, so this is something good. And if that organization is under the ownership of government, this will make or this will constitute the not-for-profit organization. Government usually exists to implement the government policy, and a charity may have provision of relief for the victim disasters. Public versus private sector organization, this is also a general understanding of what public sector organization is and what private sector organization. However, public sector organization is the part of the economy that is concerned with the providing of basic government services and is controlled by the government. Basically, public sector organization is classed as if any organization which is owned and controlled under the ownership of the government is known as the public sector organization. Recently, 10 minutes before, we studied about the not for profit organization, and that not for profit organization is also classed as public sector organization due to the fact that the public sector organization definition says that any organization which is owned and controlled by the government under the control of the government, and with a very different type of objective, so this classifies not for profit organization under the heading of public sector organization. The organization that makes up the public sector vary from country to country, but generally include police, military, public transport, primary education, healthcare for poor. Now, what is a private sector organization? A private sector organization consists of organizations that are run by private individuals and groups rather than the government. The private sector organization will therefore normally include within these will be both profit seeking organization and not for profit seeking organizations as well. Example of private sector organization includes the businesses, charities, clubs, societies, etc. Obviously, private sector organization is an organization which is owned and controlled by the private individual. Now let's look at the non-governmental organization. The non-governmental organization is one which does not which does not seek profitability as a primary goal and is not directly linked with the national government. Rather, non-governmental organizations often try to promote the political stance or the social and environmental change within the country in which they operate. The non-governmental organization normally includes the Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders, Greenpeace, amnesty schemes, etc. Basically, they also have different types of objectives. So, if I conclude the entire above stated discussion, I can say that there are two broad categories of organization. First one is the public sector organization, in which majority of the in which 110% organization is being owned and controlled by the government. It may be profit seeking, it may not be profit seeking. So, and the other different if I basically I'm talking about the bird's eye view or the drawn view. The other second type of organization is the private sector organization, and private sector organization is an organization which is owned and controlled by the private individuals. These may be their objective might be profit seeking, or their objective might not be profit seeking. And under these two categories, there are three different types of organization. The first one is the commercial organization, whose major objective is just to earn the profitability. They may be under the heading of government ownership or may not be under the heading of government ownership. The second type of organization that we have seen till now is the non-governmental organization, and the non-governmental organization, that is the NGO. Their major objective is to provide social welfare or to provide societal welfare to different parts of the company, thus facilitating the process of helping the underprivileged people or underprivileged part of the society. However, the NGO, apart from the NGO, we have got the NPO, that is not for profit organization. The not for profit organization basic aim is to the not for profit organization basic aim is just to provide the societal welfare is just to provide the societal welfare, and they are under the heading of the government ownership, and they are under the heading of the government ownership. Their major objective is providing the basic aims to the organizational structure, thus facilitating the concept of provision of services. Then the last part of the organization is the cooperative society. And see, in many there these cooperative society in Pakistan, there's a community which is known as the Maiman community. They basically work for their own community. If they are generating an amount of money, they'll distribute it just among their community members. If they are earning a handsome amount of money, they'll distribute it, or they'll put forward this amount of money only to the individuals who belong to their community. So cooperative society is also operating on the same theme. Cooperatives are organizations that are owned and democratically controlled by their members, the people who want to buy goods and services. They are organized solely to meet the need of the member owners who usually share their profitability. Cooperative society includes in the UK, the largest example of the cooperative society is the cooperative group, which has got 5.5 million members, and they operate in a diversified market such as banking, travel, groceries, so on and so forth. Sectors in which the cooperative society operate. A further difference between organization is the market in which they operate. There is a large number of different sectors which include agriculture sector, mining sector, finance. Now these are self-explanatory. I don't think so that I need to go into too much details of these sectors. Basically, they are helping you or telling you what are the different types of sectors in which a cooperative society works right now. In which a cooperative society is working right now. So the first sector is the agriculture sector. In agriculture sector, we are basically involved in the production, processing, packaging of foodstuff, mining, extraction, and processing of mineral and resources. Finance, these include banks and other companies that profit through the investment and leading to the money to others, retailers, sales of goods produced by manufacturers to consumers, services, production of intangible goods and services, and last but not the least, the transportation, that is movement of goods between locations. Now, this is the end of the first part of the organization strategy. I hope so. I have made this chapter very clear. As I've told you before, the entire strategy is being divided into three different parts. Now, before ending today's class, let me tell you my way of teaching would be that we will be spending this entire course is around 110 hours. We will be spending around 80 to 70 to 80 hours on the technical part and the rest hours on application. That is, I'll be checking your answers, I'll be letting you write your answers, we'll be having live classes, so on and so forth. So that will give you an extra help of how we will be going through these classes. So I hope so you are getting a general understanding. This part was the basic one. Then we'll be moving toward the second part. So till next class, thank you, take care, bye bye. We'll meet in the next class.